Hello class, welcome to this week's Host Cafe. My name is Ben O'Shea. I'll be teaching on Chapter 17, Learning Outcomes 1, 2, and 3. Please feel free to follow along with the outline I provided and take notes as much as you need to. Alright, let's jump right into it. Our Learning Outcome 1 is explain why communication is essential to effective management and describe the communication process. For us to understand what or why communication is essential to managers, first we have to know exactly what communication is. As defined by the book, communication is the process by which information is passed between two or more people, usually with the intent to motivate or influence behavior. This is obviously important to managers because if they're not good at communicating, they can't motivate or influence their employees to do a good job, or to even tell them what to do. So the better a manager is at communicating, the better the job gets done. As for the communication process, it can be best looked at as a circle. Person number one says something, and then person number two hears it, then person number two gives feedback or says something in return to person number one, and so on and so forth until the whole conversation's done. That's pretty much the process broken down to its simplest form. Learning Outcome 2 is describe the idea of channel richness and explain how communication channels influence the quality of communication. Well, channel richness, I think the best way we can look at it is, for example, your internet provider, you have DSL, cable, and now there's fiber optics. You know, back in the day it was dial-up, DSL, and cable. But on DSL you get a little speed, cable you get 5 to 10 megabytes per second, and then fiber optics you're 10 to 200 megabytes per second. So there's a bad conversation where you're getting very little between the channels, on the conversation between speaking to one another. You're not getting much information, you're not getting much done in the conversation. Then there's, the cable conversation, or the middle. It's a decent conversation. You got what you need done, but nothing more. And then a fiber optic or a really good conversation. You had a lot of information, tons and tons of information went through this conversation, and you got more done in that conversation than you ever expected you would when you originally planned on talking with that person. So the richness of a channel or an internet service provider is how much information you can pass in one conversation to one another. So the richer the channel, the more information you have. That's pretty much it. And this obviously influences the quality of communication, because the more information and the more things you get done in one conversation, it's a better conversation. Yeah. So number 3 is understand how gender differences, the nonverbal communication, and listening affect communication. Gender differences. It's been studied, and it's been shown that women tend to interrupt less than men do. And they also try to keep the conversation going by asking more questions and trying to almost pry information from the person that they're talking to. Whereas men, we're straight to the point, we say what we need to say. We're not going for more, we're just talking. Women tend to get more done in conversations because they are asking more questions and they are prying for more information. Again, it refers back to the channel richness. If you get more information, the better the conversation. So females usually tend to have better conversations. Body language and nonverbal communication. This is very important. There are people in the world that make money just off of understanding nonverbal communication. For example, poker players. They can see if somebody's got a good hand, a bad hand, they're lying, they're bluffing, almost everything just by understanding someone's tells or nonverbal communications, their gestures, their posture, their breathing. Sometimes it's right down to it. Listening is very important to a conversation. There's a difference between listening and hearing. Hearing, you hear the words that they're saying, but you don't really understand it. It's usually what I do when I'm preoccupied with something else and someone's talking to me. I hear what they say, I don't really pay attention to it though. Listening is when you hear the words they're saying and comprehend them so well that you could tell them exactly what they said. When you listen, you get much more out of a conversation. You receive much more information. Now, all three of these, the gender differences, the nonverbal communication, and listening, all have huge effects on conversation and communication. They can give away things that the speaker's not trying to tell, with nonverbal communication. We can learn from females to ask more questions and get more information out of each conversation that we have. Listening is probably the key thing in all communication. If someone says something to you and you don't listen to them, it's a wasted breath, plain and simple. Well, that's it. Thank you for watching. Hopefully it's not as bad as it seems to me. But please reply on the discussion boards, and we'll see you in class. All right, bye.